All right. Hello, everything, man. All right. All right. Hello. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? So we're going to get going now. Would someone mind closing the door in the back? Whoever's back there. So today we are going to discuss map design. It's kind of a primer on that, but we'll talk about that a little more at a later time in the class in depth. And then we will talk about coordinate systems. Before we get going, like always, does anyone have any questions or anything that they haven't had resolved yet about the labs or about anything else that's come up? All right, I don't see any hands, but if anything comes up, just let us know. So on the agenda today, we are first going to start off with a little group activity and discussion of the article that you all read for this week about why would a floating sheep map. I mentioned last class that we were going to be discussing this, and because I had posted the modules for this week late, that's why we're doing it today instead of doing it on Tuesday. And then we'll talk about some of the basics of map design. So we'll talk about the audience, the layout, color, font. So the reason we're doing that today is because I realized that we had not discussed those very basic parts explicitly while they have all come up before. So I thought it would just be good for us to discuss them more explicitly. We'll do a quick recap of projections from last class just to make sure that you all have a handle on those and that concept, which I think could be kind of difficult to wrap your mind around initially. And then we'll talk about coordinate systems. We'll talk about the different types of coordinate systems, in particular geographic coordinate systems and projected coordinate systems. And then Joseph will do an activity to a demonstration of the activity. So I'll leave about, what, like 10, 15 minutes for that? Okay. Does that sound all good to everyone? Anything you want to bring up? Okay. So why would a floating sheep map? What's the deal with this, right? I hope that you all found this article enjoyable and pretty easy to read and interesting. I think it's a really great one for introducing a lot of these concepts and a lot of the concepts that we're going to discuss throughout the semester. So one of the main aspects of this article had to do with the fact that not everything has a causal relationship, even if it's interesting to see geographic patterns, right? There are a lot of geographic patterns that you can find between different variables that while there is a pattern there, there's not any causation there, right? I mean, I'm sure that you all learned through school, causation and correlation are not the same thing. But that is an issue that comes up in mapping in particular, I think more often than it does in many other forms of visualization, because mapping can make it appear like one geographic pattern is the cause of another geographic pattern, or they have some relationship when they don't. They could. So if we look at this map, for example, this map is showing tweets that just use the words beer or church between June 22nd and June 29th. And if we did not assume that, if we thought that there was some sort of correlation between these types of things, what would this map say? What are you seeing on this map, or what kind of patterns are you seeing here? Yeah, Maddie. Yeah, so the Southeast is more into church than it is into beer. What other patterns are you all seeing? Yeah, Nick? Ryan, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, yeah, the further north you go, the more beer counties there are for sure. And much of the United States makes it appear that beer and church are about the same, or they have the same level of importance. I don't think we need to go too in depth to why this is a kind of a bogus map in that way. While it's an interesting map and kind of funny to see these geographic patterns, there's nothing more serious to it, right? But part of the fun of making maps, though, is an understanding that sometimes we can map things that aren't serious, and that things that it might just be interesting to see what geographic patterns there are, even if there's not necessarily a correlation between different variables. So what about this map? What is this map telling us? Yeah, Michael.
Larger the
Yeah, so what Michael said was that the larger the circles there are, the more references to bars there are in Google Maps and on the Google Maps directory. So that's what the map says it's showing. What is the map actually showing? It's a lot easier than you think. Don't overthink what this map is actually showing us. Yeah, Maddie. So it does. So I actually what this map is showing actually doesn't have anything to do with bars, but you're getting closer. Why would I say that? What is this map doing? It doesn't have anything to do with bars. What is it actually showing? Yeah, Andrew.
concentration versus
Yes. This is a map of population density. This is the reason that I say this map is a map of population and population density is because look at it. All of these places that have the giant circles are the most populated places in the United States. There's a reason that in Wyoming it's tiny, whereas in New York you can't even see the state outline, right? Because this is a population map, and that's like something that you'll learn to see throughout this course. Oftentimes, people present a map as a map of something, and actually, what that map is a map of population. That is very, very common, and it's something to kind of keep a lookout for. This is a particularly interesting map, I think, just in terms of the coincidence of brains versus salads. I can't remember exactly how they got this date or this data, but if we were to look at this map in terms of those two things, which have no relation to each other, it would appear that Europe and the United States have a lot of salad, very few zombies, whereas places in, say, the South Asian continent have a lot of zombies, but very little salad, right? These are the kind of the things about making maps, right? You can map literally any type of data, no matter how serious it is or not serious it is, and say something, right? And tell some sort of story, regardless of the quality of the data. This one, bronies versus juggalos. Do any of you know bronies and juggalos and what those are? I see at least one or two people. What's a brony? Yeah, a brony is an adult man who's very, very interested in My Little Pony. What's a juggalo? Does anyone know juggalos? I feel like it's more of a Midwestern phenomenon. I one of you has to know what a juggalo is. Yeah, what's a juggalo? Yes. They're very into the band Insane Clown Posse. Uh, I actually did not even know what juggalos were before I got to Indiana. I had never heard anything of it, but I know that there's a lot in Ohio and around here. But what this map is showing is there is, in theory, a geographic pattern of areas where bronies and juggalos are. It appears that in the eastern United States, there are maybe more juggalos, but not as many bronies. I'm not totally sure. What's the issue in terms of the map design elements we've talked about with this map? Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, yeah, totally. Because it's showing how big the counties are, but it's not actually showing the population. Andrew, what are you thinking? Hmm.
way mostly.
Yeah, yeah. There's a bit too many colors on this map, and even in terms of some of the colors are just way too similar, right? The way more juggalos and way more bronies categories are like very similar in color, so it's actually difficult somewhat to tell on the map which is which. This is another Juggalo map. As you can see, the authors of the Floating Sheep article were very interested in mapping anything Juggalo related when they were writing this. But you know, I mean, think about where there are more juggalos and where there are more polar bears. The areas where there are more polar bears is surprising how many there are compared to juggalos. So I don't know if this is based on search data or anything else. Um, but you know, essentially what we're getting at with this article, right, is that we need to critically understand the maps that we're looking at, and we need to be able to interpret whether they're actually legitimate or valid, or whether they're just something that's for fun, or whether there's something that maybe has a deeper, more sinister purpose, right? So I just put these fun maps on here just because these don't harm anyone. They're just a funny, kind of interesting type maps to see that are very unexpected in a intro level course like this. This one, Chuck Norris, more hobbits. I am unsurprised that there is, or I'm very surprised actually at how much Chuck Norris there is near Australia and New Zealand and everything compared to hobbits. But now what we're going to do is I actually want you to discuss with your tables the floating sheep article. So what I want you to do is talk about what the purpose of the article was overall and what arguments they were making. And then I want you to answer these questions. So why did the author say we are the new Jerusalems? Who's Arthur Robinson? Why was he important? The same with J.B. Harley. What does it mean to be critical about mapping? This is, you could say, critical to this activity. This is probably the most important question. What do the authors mean when they say be critical about mapping? And I'll give you a hint. They're not talking about criticizing. It's a different type of critical. So I will let you all discuss that amongst yourselves, and then talk about what you found surprising about the article and what you found confusing, or anything else that kind of comes to mind. So does that work for everyone? And if you're the only person at your table or anything, you can just maybe move to another table for this activity to do that. All right, so I will give you all about 10 minutes to do that. Starting now. We'll give you a few minutes. We can give it a few minutes before we want.